This is a solution to one of the online homework problems from section 1.6. We can see that this is a quotient, and so it shouldn't be surprising that the quotient rule is the appropriate thing to use here. The statement of the quotient rule, which again I always write down what the rule says first and then do it, but the rule says to do the derivative of the numerator times the denominator minus the derivative of the denominator times the numerator, and then that's all divided by the denominator squared. So that's what the quotient rule says to do, and now I have to do it. I have to find this derivative and that will have done all the calculus, and then I can see if there's any obvious algebra simplification that I want to do. So the derivative of x, of course, is just 1, so I have 1 times this guy. So that's just that. And then here, the derivative of x to the minus 1 is minus 1 times x to the minus 2. And then, of course, plus 4, the derivative of the 4 constant here will be 0. And then that's still multiplied by x. The x that's here just comes down to here. So the derivative of this is this guy, and it's still multiplied by x. And we still have our x to the minus 1 plus 4 squared in the denominator. And so that's done with the calculus part. It is worth seeing at least if something will cancel, factor, cancel, whatever, just to simplify it a little bit, if possible. In this case, we'll see that something does happen, at least make it a little bit easier to look at. This part, of course, just is there, so we can take the parentheses off. They're not really doing anything on the first term. Then I have minus minus, which I know is plus. And then I have a power of x times a power of x. This is x to the minus 2, and this is really x to the first. So when I multiply two powers of x, two powers with the same base, the exponents get added. So if I add the negative 2 exponent to the 1 exponent, I'll have x to the minus 1 as my exponent. And the denominator is still sitting there. And so you can see that the one thing that does happen here is that we end up with two of the same terms, and so that does allow us to at least do some very minimal algebra. I can combine those two terms and get 2x to the minus 1 plus 4 over x to the minus 1 plus 4 squared. And so the only way you could write that differently would be to resolve this x to the minus 1 and write that as 1 over x in both places. And that could potentially lead to having a compound fraction and having to do a bunch of other little dances. It may help, it may not, but I believe that is going to be a simplified enough form to write in the box there.